I'm Jimmy,
I'm Jake,
and
and we've
we've
got
got
issues.
issues.
Today we're talking about Batman Volume 2, issue number 3, the title of which is Nitric? No, the 13th Hour.
The 13th Hour. I thought this issue was really great, actually.
Well, let's get into it. So, starting off, we've got the cover.
I do like this cover. It's a cover of Batman fighting the Talon.
Yeah, um, there's no background, it's just a white background, but the
Yeah.
characters are fighting each other, which looks really cool. It kind of reminds me of the artist Jay Lee, who does really great character drawings, but he very rarely draws backgrounds.
When you say Jay Lee, are you talking about Jim Lee?
No,
Jay Lee.
yeah,
Huh.
did a lot of the first Superman Batman comics
Okay.
for the New 52.
All right.
So yeah, this cover kind of lets you think, hey, Batman's going to be fighting the Talon, which is cool because the last issue we saw Bruce Wayne having to fight the Talon,
Yeah.
and he couldn't go all out
Then,
because he didn't want to blow his cover.
then you saw him. And then you saw the Talon fall onto a car from falling out of the Wayne Tower from 1888, and then he just disappeared.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw this cover, I was thinking, all right, they're going to fight. But as we go through the issue, we find that they actually never do. Batman never fights the Talon in this issue.
Yeah.
Got a variant cover here of Batman swinging through Gotham streets. He's shooting his grappling gun.
Yeah.
What do you think?
In this case, I've been liking the alternate covers a little bit better,
Mm-hmm.
but I do like the first cover with the black and white background, or the white background with the two characters fighting.
Yeah, me too. I like this one because it shows like how small his gear is.
Right.
It's got like a little. It looks like it's a flash grenade or something.
Oh
That's
wait,
about the size of it.
it's got a rope coming from it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's his grappling hook,
Yeah.
and looks like his line is attached somewhere on his belt, which is I actually had never seen before. That's an interesting idea. And he's got a bit of 5 o'clock shadow going on
Right.
too.
I like Batman with the 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, looks pretty cool.
Yeah. On the topic of the first cover, I'd honestly get a poster of that if they sold them in stores. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. A lot of these panels could be posters.
Yeah.
So let's jump in. First page, we have Gotham City in the winter of 1922. And we have a madman running through the streets yelling for help.
Yeah, saying he's running through the streets, asking for help, and then he gets stopped by a police officer, and they recognize him as Alan Wayne.
That's right.
Which
the guy who built the old Wayne Tower, who we had heard about since the first issue.
Right.
And if you remember in the last issue, the Talon had mentioned how he loves killing Waynes.
Yes.
And so we're like, what's that all about? And in this opening issue, we see Alan Wayne running through the streets. The first panel, it looks like he has some blood dripping off of his feet. We don't know if that's from him running barefoot through the streets or...
I think it's a combination of the ground and how cold it is, too.
Okay, so you don't think he was like attacked or anything?
Well, he might have been attacked, but you don't know how long he's been running, so...
It's true.
Yeah.
And in the other panels, it doesn't look like he's dripping blood or anything like that from anywhere above his feet. So,
right.
Yeah. So, it was in this first page when you see the cop's face that I'm like, Greg Capullo, he's a great artist, but all of his faces look very similar.
I thought this officer looks a lot similar to Lincoln.
Looks exactly like Lincoln
Right.
March. It looks very similar to Bruce Wayne. The chin is a little wider.
Maybe.
But all of his faces are very similar here.
Maybe a distant relative to Lincoln.
Yeah, with the Gotham PD.
Yeah.
So, next page, we see these officers talking about what they're going to do with Alan Wayne. And they're pretty chill, actually. They recognize him, and they're like, hey, this guy built half the city. We don't want to, drag him in and cause a big stir.
Right.
So these guys are pretty cool dudes, which you don't usually see from cops in media. You don't really see them portrayed this way.
Right.
But Alan is talking about nests being everywhere in his home, them being after him, and the cops don't know, but we're assuming that this is the Court of Owls and the Talon.
To the police officers, it just sounds like a bunch of crazy babble.
Yep, sounds like the ravings of a madman.
Yeah, that's what they said, isn't it?
And on the second page here, on the top right panel, we have Alan say, don't you see the 13th hour? It's upon us.
They're coming.
Yeah, there's the title drop right there,
Yeah.
13th hour. What exactly that refers to, I'm not sure.
Right.
I think it just means the time is nigh. Although, from what we've seen,
so it's
this takes place in 1922, and we're in modern time now, so that's a slow-moving clock.
When they say the 13th hour, are they referring to 1 a.m. or 1 p.m.?
Well, yeah, if we're going by military time,
right,
then it would be 1 p.m.
Yeah.
But I don't think I think it's a common phrase like the end is coming.
And 13 is commonly referred to as an unlucky number.
That's true. We do touch upon that later in this issue as well.
Yes. Maybe he's freaking out over the bad luck. I don't know.
Possibly. So we see him. We see the cops talking about what they should do with Alan, and then we hear Alan scream, and we look over and we see an empty manhole cover, and it looks like he's fallen into the sewers.
Right.
Fallen or was taken or dragged into the sewers.
That's some Looney Tunes stuff right there.
Yeah, I mean, if he actually fell in, which I doubt, it kind of makes it seem like someone grabs him and pulls him down.
Right.
Of course, we don't know for sure.
Well, maybe we could find a clue in the previous panels that maybe it was closed. I don't see.
Let's see, looking around, I don't see the manhole cover at all.
Right. So
it's tough to say.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why the manhole cover, the cover would be off. That's kind of weird.
Yeah,
It looks like there's some steam or something rising from it.
Ew.
Yeah.
That's some steamy crap right there.
Steamy pile of it.
Mm-hmm.
So next page, we get this really cool transition here. We see two pins of light in the darkness, which look like the eyes of the Talon.
Right, and then
we see the pins of light reflected in an eyeball, and we also see like windows above the pins of light, and we realize that it's a
train.
It's a train, a subway that's barreling down on this person.
Wow, Greg Capullo can draw eyeballs pretty well.
Yeah, the pencil's good, but I think the real star of this is the coloring. Whoever colored in this eyeball did a really good job with the iris.
Yeah.
But we see Batman dangling this crook over the rails of this subway, and he's like, "Okay, I'll talk," and so he pulls him back. I love the classic intimidation tactics, Batman. What do you think?
I like that too. You would never see Adam West's Batman doing that.
No,
No.
definitely not.
Yeah, it's more like uh, this Batman, really.
And we know that Batman would never actually let this guy get splattered on the tracks,
Right.
but he doesn't know that. For all he knows, the Batman is just this mythical crime-fighting figure.
I like the eyes in the guy in. You see in the window of the train here. There's a dude. Look, the driver of the train looking really surprised at what he's seeing as he's going by. So,
Yeah, yeah. As he looks over,
he's all, what? For some reason, it reminds me of like not Doctor Who, but Doctor Seuss eyeballs.
it's really wide. And,
Yeah.
tangent. How difficult do you think it is to drive a subway or any train? Really, it's on rails, right? So all you got to do is control speed.
Yeah.
It's got to be like the easiest job in the world, huh?
I don't think so. Well, maybe. There's a bunch of levers too, so I guess it's. I mean, I guess it could be an easy job. I don't really know.
Why haven't you done more research into trains, Jimmy?
I watched a documentary like 2 weeks ago on trains. Thank you very much.
So you should be an expert.
I am not an expert.
Well, anyway, we see Batman pushing this crime dude for info, and the Batman says he's going to talk, and then as he's talking, he's like, he implies that Batman is going to be killed, and we see his cronies sneaking up on the tracks behind Batman. But this bad guy's name is Luca Volk.
Luca Folk, yeah.
And it says here that he's a Pakan
A pecan.
of Gotham branch of the Ukrainian mob.
He doesn't look like a nut to me.
Ha.
Ha
Pecan.
ha.
Well, I looked it up, and Pakan is a common rank in the Russian mafia, or the Bratva. It means boss, and he controls 4 criminal cells through a brigadier.
A brigadier, huh?
Yeah, interesting. What do you think of regular crime organizations in Gotham?
Like
this, compared to like a Dr. Freeze or Joker or Scarecrow or whatever.
I think it's, well, in a weird sense, more real than a guy with half his face burned off.
True.
But I do like my gangsters in my comics. You know,
Okay.
I've always liked the Falcone family specifically
Yeah.
from the Long Halloween comic book, actually.
Mhm.
So, I mean, gangsters, in my mind, I associate gangsters with Gotham, as
Okay.
well as Batman and all the other stuff.
Yeah. Whenever I see regular gangsters trying to attack Batman, I'm like, what a futile endeavor. Batman's
Right?
just going to wipe the floor with you. You don't have
Yeah.
super strength. You don't have ninja reflexes. You don't have laser vision. You are just going to get your butt handed to
He's
you.
dealt with a crazy clown, for Pete's sake.
Mhm. The next page we have, sure enough, the Batman. He's fighting off these dudes
Oh,
with these iron masks on their face.
real quick, we should mention that he's looking for the Talon in the subways.
Right.
Yes.
So his thinking was that there was no security footage of the Talon entering or leaving
Right.
the old Wayne Tower. So he assumes that he must have come in through the rail line that runs beneath the tower.
Yes.
And so this is what he's pressing these gang members for information about.
Well, and they won't talk, and we'll find out here in a minute.
Yeah. But in this page, he mentions that there are 5 gangs that control smuggling in and out of Gotham by the rail. So that implies that there are more than 5 gangs, and these guys are just dealing with the rail. What do you think about the fact that there are at least 5 gangs running around in Gotham City, and that Batman allows this?
First of all, why?
Right.
You know,
You'd think
he got
Batman can take out a giant T-Rex with rockets on its back, but he's having trouble with 5 gangs.
so you have the Yakuza, you got the Russian mob,
Hmm.
and I think the Irish,
Well, these were the Ukrainian
the
mobsters.
Ukrainian mobsters. Thank you.
Well, he mentions 5 of them, and then later he mentions La M, which I looked up. That's the Mexican mafia,
Okay.
not operating out of Mexico, but originating in the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah, according to Wikipedia.
Well, Wikipedia is always right.
Exactly.
Sarcasm.
And so Batman's talking about why he came down here. He mentions that the assassination attempt on Bruce Wayne was 2 days ago. So, what do you think of Batman fighting while he's wounded? Like, because he got stabbed, what, like 3 times? And then he almost ripped
twice
his
in
arms?
the arm, and I think one in the leg.
I think all of his wounds were in his arm.
Yeah, okay.
And then he almost rips his arms out of the socket by grabbing onto that last gargoyle that was on the side of the building.
Grotesque.
Grotesque, as we discovered. So he can't be in good shape right now.
Right.
He's got to have stitches or whatever, like bat technology he's come up with, like whatever super glue or something like that for his wounds to be closed.
Or maybe his suit. Well, no, his suit's not that high tech. It would be cool if it fixed his wounds when he put it on.
If it fixed his wounds?
Like stitched him up?
If his suit did?
Yeah, I know, that's a weird thought.
Yeah, he's not Iron Man. It's just
right, that's Iron Man
armor
stuff right there.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder how often he fights while suffering wounds like that.
Probably pretty often.
And how badass he would be if he was in tip-top condition. If he had a full night's sleep, if he had no wounds, if he was perfectly rested.
Right.
I mean, he'd probably be just a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, in the words of Batman, he's not the hero Gotham wants, he's the hero Gotham needs.
Yeah, according to Christian Bale.
Right.
So we see they mention, or Batman mentions the Yakuza and La M, and then the Ukrainian mobsters, and how he's gone through all of these gangs already, and this is his last lead as to how the Talon got into Wayne Tower.
Right. I like the iron masks these mobsters are wearing, though.
Yeah, and they talk about that later,
yes.
that these are...
Oh, there's the bat symbol on his boot again.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I like that continuity. He's still got his bat symbol on the boot.
Right. Well, if he's walking through some mud, wouldn't someone be able to follow his tracks?
Sure, but they would be able to follow his tracks regardless.
Right.
Plus, it probably helps his urban myth kind of feel. Like, ooh, look at the bat footprint.
Right.
The guy must be real.
And we see in this next page here, we see some Batman grabbing some open wires here. And
it looks like he's ripping the conduit off of the ceiling.
Ripping it, yeah. And shocking the mobsters in the face.
Yeah, he talks about these Ukrainian mobsters. He says that they're candidates or sixths, and they are sent overseas to take extensive weapons training. And then when they get back, they wear this iron mask that's welded to their head. And they have to keep wearing that for a year until they've proven themselves. So basically, they can't snitch.
Right.
But I was just thinking,
how are you going to eat?
Well, not only that. Well, it looks like there's a little hole in the front.
Yeah.
Maybe you could slip a straw through or something.
Maybe they puree all their food.
But I was thinking, how easy would it be for Gotham PD to be like, this dude's wearing an iron mask? maybe we should bring him in and ask him
Right.
about his gang connections. I mean, that's like having the words gang member tattooed across your forehead. It makes it a little too easy, I would think, for Gotham PD.
Yeah, for sure.
But, pause. All right, we're back. Okay, so let's move this mic a little closer. There we go.
There we go.
So did you notice that this train appears to be coming from the opposite direction of the train that just left?
That's weird.
Yeah, especially so close on its heels.
Right.
I don't know if it's like a perspective thing or what, but that just seems odd.
That is definitely odd.
But Batman gets on the other side of this this subway car, and he attaches this little tiny thing, which we discover is a magnet. But first, I wanted to talk about.
I thought he was throwing rubble onto the like, you know, metal screws and stuff onto the train to show that it was magnetic.
Well, why would a train just be magnetic?
I don't know. Japan has magnetic trains.
I think it's a bad device that it acts as a super magnet.
Okay. Anyways,
What do I see in this panel that Batman's got bloody lips? What do you think of that? It looks like he took some hits in this fight, but we didn't really see him getting hit anywhere.
let's see. Maybe he busted his lip swinging. I don't know. Oh wait. Go
Where?
up. Oh wait, no, that's his Batman. So he's coming up with a knife. See, and I couldn't
Yeah,
tell you.
we don't actually see a panel where Batman gets hit, but I guess we're just meant to assume that this fight dragged on longer than we've seen, and that he's taken some hits. What do you think about Batman taking hits from just regular dudes?
I think it's like, I don't know. I don't have much thoughts on that. I didn't really put much thought into it.
Yeah, I think Batman's such a badass that imagining him getting beat up by just a regular gangster seems kind of far-fetched, but well, he was previously injured from the last comic, so who knows?
Mm-hmm.
All right, next. Yeah, so we see all the Iron Masked gang members get their faces stuck to the train as it's been magnetized and then dragged off with the train. At that speed, I'm thinking they definitely broke their necks.
Right? I mean, they did just go off panel here. You don't know if Batman killed him. He just like kind of left it off to the
Right. I mean,
reader to
we're
decide.
assuming that Batman didn't kill them.
Right.
But I mean, in real life, that would totally break your neck.
I remember laughing and seeing this, and I thought it was hilarious.
It is hilarious.
I just imagined the sounds it made.
Yeah.
Going on there.
The tink. Oh shit.
Tink, 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 tink.
And so now this fella here, the leader of the gang, the Pacan, now he's got the fear of the bat put in him.
Right.
And so he's trying to run away, and Batman's like, "You're gonna tell me everything I want to know." And he's looking all badass and scary.
With his bloody lip that just seemed to happen.
And so this guy, he says that he doesn't know anything about the Owl Man. And we see an overlay from Batman's vision.
From his contact.
Yeah. And it says lie detection assessing, and then it says that it's the truth. But that's a pretty darn awesome gadget to have.
I mean, first of all, it could identify the Bat family, name their access, but now it could tell if you're lying. Oh, also, it could do a lip syncing thing.
Lip reading, yeah.
Lip reading, as we saw in, what was it, the first comic?
Yeah, I believe it was the first issue. But we see this guy, after having told the truth about knowing nothing about the Owl Man, we see Batman slink off into the shadows and say, "Get out of my tunnels,"
Right.
which is weird. He just leaves this known gang leader. He just leaves him there.
Yeah, it's not the guy he's looking for, so why bother?
Well, because he's a criminal.
I know. He is a
I don't
criminal.
know. Batman, dude.
Right?
If you don't want 5 gangs controlling the rail lines in Gotham, you got to
Take one
start.
out.
Got to start making some arrests here.
Right.
So next page, we see Batman in the Batcave going over the footage from the last issue with Bruce Wayne fighting the Talon.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he's analyzing the voice of the Talon to see if he can get an ID on him. And there's nothing coming up, unfortunately. The Bat computer's not helping him here. And Alfred comes up here and offers him some tea. And he gives this little roundabout way of talking about how bats depend on the sunset for navigation, basically implying that Batman needs rest before he'll know what his next move should be. What did you think of Alfred's little speech here?
I thought it was an interesting fact about bats. I know there's probably some underlying meaning here, but
I looked up on Wiki ornithology, which he mentions this article that he read in the Gotham Gazette is the study of birds. So apparently that includes bats as well.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. I guess they do have wings. So.
But we see this a lot in the Batman comics. We see Alfred kind of looking out for Batman, trying to get him to eat or sleep or whatever, or take it easy, because he's always pushing himself so hard. And that made me think, where do you think Batman would be if Alfred wasn't there for him?
I think he'd be even more of a vigilante. I think he'd... Because Alfred's kind of his conscience sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think without a conscience, he'd be hurting people even more.
Yeah.
Not quite killing them, but like breaking arms to get information out of people.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think Batman would be burning himself out a lot quicker.
Mm.
Just the fact that Alfred's always there supporting him and kind of trying to rein him in a little bit.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But Batman kind of rebukes Alfred. He's like, I know all about bats, Alfred, but tell me what you know about owls. And so Alfred, it seems like this is the first time Alfred's getting in on this case here. Maybe he didn't know about it from before.
Right.
But Alfred, or rather Bruce, tells Alfred about how the Talon had mentioned he loves killing Waynes.
Mm-hmm.
And Alfred's like, no Wayne in the last 50 years has died
mysteriously,
suspiciously, other than Bruce's parents.
Right.
But that line made me think about the extended family. Like, there's got to be other Waynes out there, right? Like uncles and cousins and stuff like that.
Right.
We don't really see that much in the Batman comics. I mean, we see, what's her name? Kate Kane, who is Batwoman, who is Batman's cousin from his mother's side, I believe. But other than that, we don't really get much of the Wayne extended family.
Yeah.
Alfred mentions that he has heard about the little poem, the folk tale.
Right, and Batman's tired of hearing it at this point.
He is. He still does not believe in this Court of Owls thing. He thinks that somebody's just kind of using an old folktale to take on this new villain persona.
Right.
But Alfred does mention that owls are the natural predators of bats.
Bats, yes.
Oh, what did you think of that?
I thought that was really, really cool. Um, it kind of implies that, well, they are obviously after Batman, who's
Well, Bruce Wayne at least.
Bruce Wayne at least, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a coincidence because, as we know, the Court of Owls have been around for a while, and Batman's relatively new compared to the age of the Court of Owls, but still, interesting coincidence.
Yes. Coincidence? I think not.
I think not. Dun dun dun. But Alfred does say that there's one thing about his family history and owls, and
Right.
it involves Alan Wayne, his great great grandfather, who we saw from the start of this comic.
Yes.
Alfred says that he suffered from aggressive senility, which Batman knew.
Right.
But Alfred says that he had a
Particular obsession with owls.
That's right. So next page here, we have this really cool shot through
Of the mask, which
the lenses of Batman's cowl.
it kind of made me think someone was spying on them. That's what it made me think.
Oh, like someone was like tapping into his computer.
Yeah.
I didn't think it implied anything. I think it was just a cool shot, like the shot from the open cadaver in the morgue from the
Right.
last.
That was a cool shot. Just a camera in the dude's chest.
But yeah, that's interesting. Maybe the court is spying on him
Right.
somehow.
I'm not sure. That's what I thought when I saw the shot through the mask.
Well, Alfred mentions that in Alan's paranoia and obsession, he thought that owls were conspiring against him, and that he boarded up his windows in fear that the owls would come for him in the night.
Yeah. On the surface level, that just sounds really funny.
And he mentions he thinks that the owls were roosting inside of his walls, which is obviously ridiculous, but later in this comic we find out maybe not so much.
Right.
And then we find that the circumstances surrounding his death were odd, though not necessarily mysterious, that he had drowned when falling through an open manhole cover in the Gotham sewer. So that was, I guess, Alan Wayne's last moments that we saw at the start of this comic.
Right.
And Alfred again says, you've taken some pretty bad hits lately from falling off the tower. Maybe you should, take some rest, drink some tea. But Batman, always going. He's got that unstoppable willpower. So,
and then we go to the Gotham General Hospital.
Yep, sun's up.
Out of the Batcave.
Out of the Batcave. Bruce is in the hospital visiting with Lincoln March. In the last issue, we saw Lincoln take one of the Talon's throwing knives to the gut. So clearly he survived.
Right. He lived to see another day.
And it appears that the reason that Bruce has come to visit Lincoln is that he wanted to follow up on what Lincoln was talking about just before the Talon burst in through the elevator at Gotham Tower.
Right.
Do you remember what he was talking about then?
At the Gotham Tower?
Yeah, what Lincoln was saying.
Gotham was Gotham. He was talking about. He was asking for pretty much Bruce Wayne's vote for the.
Right, but at the very end, he mentioned something that something has come to Gotham, something old and something evil,
yes,
or something ancient, and before he could elaborate on that, the Talon bursts in.
Right, and then voila, hello, guys.
Yeah,
It's kind of surprised him.
yeah. Um, and so Lincoln says that he was getting warnings, whispers from people to drop his bid for mayor. He doesn't say which people tell him to do this, but he does mention that after he got these threats to drop his bid, that he discovered an owl in his apartment, perched above a pile of bones,
A small pile of bones.
which
I mean, if
kind of reminds me of the horse head in the bed in
Godfather.
Godfather, right?
If that's not a warning with the owl, I don't know what is.
Pretty clearly.
Yeah.
That they can get into his apartment.
But like, what would you do if you woke up, opened your closet, and found an owl on top of a small pile of bones, just sitting there? What would your first reaction be?
I mean, realistically, I would probably look at the security in my house, call the cops, animal control.
Right.
I'd start sleeping with a gun.
Right. My first thought would be, why isn't it attacking me?
The owl?
Yeah.
Why would it?
You know, because owls are nocturnal. You startle them by opening the thing, and they want to fly out.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the owl is pretty chill.
Right, maybe.
Well, he had a pile of bones. Clearly, it had just eaten. So.
Maybe it's a letter to Hogwarts, Jake. Maybe.
I don't think you're a wizard.
No, maybe you're getting a letter to Hogwarts.
Oh, well, I'm a wizard, definitely.
Are you sure?
Well, my wand is bigger than yours. So, we see a close-up of Bruce's eye looking at Lincoln, and it made me think, you gotta assume that Batman always has his contacts in, the ones that are linked up to the Bat computer.
Right.
And we've already seen earlier in this issue the lie detector function. So you got to assume that everything that Lincoln's saying, Bruce is kind of verifying the truth of it via his contacts.
Right.
So apparently Lincoln is telling the truth about all of this.
Right. When they closed in on Bruce's eye, I thought it was Lincoln talking.
Well, you see Lincoln's reflection.
And then I had to recreate the page like twice to understand what was happening. And I was like, oh, is Lincoln talking?
Yeah, because we see Lincoln's reflection in Bruce's pupil there.
Right.
But it also makes me think, Bruce just set out of the Batcave to visit Lincoln without taking a break or taking in any tea or anything like that. And before that, we saw Batman fighting the Ukrainian mobsters.
Right.
And we heard from Batman that he had fought 4 other groups of mobsters before that. So when the hell does Batman ever sleep?
I don't think he ever sleeps.
I
think...
Well, he's a human.
I think... I was watching a video one time, I'm not sure. I think it might have been like facts about Batman or something. And I think they mentioned he gets only 3 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah, I did hear that on a podcast where they were talking about Batman and how in one of the comics he mentions certain monks have learned this deep meditation that allows them to feel rested after 3 hours or something like that.
Right, yeah. I heard Donald Trump only ever sleeps 5 hours a night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I heard he's on pharmacological assistance.
I don't know what that is, but okay.
Basically speed, like Ritalin.
Oh.
Which, for a guy who mows down the hamburgers, that's probably not very healthy.
Right.
All right, next page. We see Batman talking to Lincoln still, and Lincoln's talking about what he did after he found the owl in his closet, how he got in touch with Gotham PD and reported it. And and Lincoln mentions how he had heard about the message from the John Doe we saw in the first issue.
Right.
Leave the message about warning that Bruce Wayne is going to be killed.
Yeah.
And Lincoln says that the John Doe was killed by the Talon, and Bruce Wayne says the verdict is still out on who killed that man. But I mean, why would it makes you wonder why Bruce would still be doubting at this point. I mean, clearly the Talon is the one who killed the John Doe, right?
Right.
Yeah, the
Or
dude's throwing knives at him.
that's what they want you to think. But that's
the mysterious
That's what the writers want you to think.
Want me to think that Batman thinks?
But no, I don't know.
All right. And then Lincoln rattles off the Court of Owls nursery rhyme.
Yeah,
I mean, he leaves off the very last part of it. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send the Talon. And the last part is for your head.
Bruce Wayne's always says, "I've been hearing that older I'm a lot like you, Lincoln. Frankly, he's getting tired of it.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of it." That's what.
And Batman's so in denial. He's like, if there was a Court of Owls with my roots in this city, I would have to have known about it a long time ago. I mean, just as Bruce Wayne, yeah, you would assume that he would know about it. But the fact that he's also Batman and he knows the seedy underbelly, you would assume that Batman knows absolutely everything that's going on in Gotham.
You would assume so.
But Lincoln says, well, unless they don't want you to know.
You know what? I wonder how many hours a day Bruce Wayne watches of news.
The news?
So he could keep up with everything.
I doubt he actually watches it. He probably has a Bat computer listening to it for keywords, maybe. Or maybe he gets in touch with Vicky Vale every once in a while, who we saw in the first issue.
Yeah. Maybe.
But with his access to CCTV cameras around the city, the Bat computer, the Bat family, talking to Commissioner Gordon,
right?
I would assume that he'd have no use for the news, really.
Yeah.
If it got to that point, then he'd be out of the loop. Bruce mentions that he's sending his best people to look out for Lincoln, and Lincoln's like, if your best people are looking after me, then who's looking after you? Which makes you think Lincoln's a pretty cool dude, pretty altruistic. But when Batman mentions that, do you think he's talking about the extended Bat family, or do you think like literal security guards?
He's probably talking about the Bat family.
You think so?
I mean, they're probably the best security he knows.
It would be interesting to see like Batgirl or Robin just kind of perched on a building outside of Gotham Hospital looking over Lincoln or something.
Right. I think I'd send Nightwing. He has more experience with fighting.
Well, if you're looking for the most skilled fighter, you'd probably want Damian looking out for him.
True. Because he was
but
raised
any of
by...
the Bat family can really kick ass. That's kind of a prerequisite. So, Batman talks about, or Lincoln talks about how about the story from when he was back in the orphanage and how there was a sinkhole beneath it and that no one noticed it until this nun noticed this creaky floorboard. He's basically telling Batman or Bruce the same thing that Alfred was, that you're not seeing the forest for the trees. You need to take a step back and kind of look at this mystery as a whole. So it seems like Lincoln's a pretty smart dude.
Yeah.
And next page,
you see,
we have Batman hang gliding.
Yeah, I think it's kind of neat, but I don't know how he takes. Does he just take it off when he's done with it, or?
I'm
How does
assuming
that work?
it folds up.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks pretty. I mean, the material looks pretty thin, and then there are very thin, like metal rods sticking out of it for him to hold on to. So
Now, in this first panel, we see Batman going in front of the moon, or the setting sun, maybe?
probably the moon.
The moon. And it reminds me of Michael Keaton's Batman. When
Yeah,
the.
when the Batwing goes up
Yes.
and then it
And it shows
hits
the.
the zenith and then flips around and starts
Right.
plummeting toward the
I
sky.
thought that was a neat little reference there.
Yeah. Well, the bat symbol silhouetted by the moon is a pretty
Yeah.
iconic thing. Batman mentions how historically cities are a place of superstition. He mentions several different superstitions like a black cat crossing your path or breaking a mirror or whatever.
Right.
But he also mentions the 13th floor, which is a real thing. A lot of buildings that are taller than 13 stories skip the 13th floor.
Yeah, which is kind of strange because I know they think it's bad luck, but I think of it as just another floor.
Yeah, I was
You
going to
know,
ask you, what do you have any superstitions?
I don't have any superstitions as far as bad luck goes. Like I'll walk under however many ladders I want. I'll break however many mirrors I want also and know that nothing's going to happen.
Well, you walk under a ladder, you might get a hammer dropped on your head.
Well,
You
no.
break a mirror, you might cut your hand.
Eh,
I mean, just common
it's
sense.
not bad luck. It's just what do they call it? Collateral.
The obvious outcome of
Yeah.
doing something stupid.
Yeah.
So no superstitions, huh? I got to admit, I don't really have any superstitions either, or any weird, irrational beliefs. But people are weird,
Yeah.
and so Batman mentions that in between the where the 13th floor should be, instead of just building the building like normal and calling the 13th floor the 14th floor,
Right.
they build this small little space between floors to act as the 13th floor.
Oh, between all the floors?
Between the 12th, or between the 12th and the 14th floor.
Okay.
Well, that's what it says here.
Yes, that's
A
right.
space just big enough, in theory, for a man to hide in.
Kind of goes back to what Alfred was saying about owls, how they take over. They don't make their own nests, they take over older nests.
Yeah, the only bird that doesn't make their own nests.
Right.
So Batman lands on the grotesque, and it looks like his hang glider,
Just kind
the
of
fabric of it starts getting like floppy again. So
Huh.
must be like in
like the Dark Knight.
was it The Dark Knight or Batman Begins where he develops that fabric that hardens when he puts an electrical pulse through
It
it?
was, I think it was the Dark Knight and Batman Begins.
I think it was Batman Beginnings where
Okay.
he establishes this technique.
Oh yes, wait, it was Batman Begins. Now I'm thinking of the movie. Yeah.
No. So next page we see Batman slinking into Gotham Tower,
Right.
and we're assuming he's on the 14th floor here, and he's in just some random office.
And he cuts a hole.
Yeah, he looks at the floor, and then he uses this like laser pointer to cut a hole through the floor. What? I can think of a couple combat applications for this laser.
Where was this laser earlier?
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't want to kill anybody, using the laser would be difficult in combat because it's so deadly.
Maybe you burn a hole through someone's foot?
Through their foot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Batman maims people either, really, if he can help it.
Huh.
Like, sure, he might be able to cut like a dude's arm off and he'd still live, but it doesn't seem like something Batman would do. But he busts through the floor.
They should have added an onomatopoeia there. Like a thud or something.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of those in the last issue.
Yeah.
And Batman cracks a glow stick, and we see
An owl cave.
the Owl Cave.
That's what I'm calling it. It's like the Bat Cave, but
Well,
smaller.
it's fitting. So you want to describe some of the things we're seeing here in the Owl Cave?
When Batman comes down, you see the crest of the Court of Owls in the background, and just to the right of that, you see like a glider of some sort. You got what are those circular dumbbells called? It's called
Kettlebell.
kettlebells. There's some kettlebells there and some dumbbells. Old bed. It looks very old. It doesn't look like it's been used in a long time.
My bad.
Well, I was when I saw the punching bag there, I was thinking,
A punching bag where?
on the right.
Oh! It blended in with the blue.
What do you think that is?
Looks like there's also a pommel.
But I was thinking the last place that I used to live, we had a boxing or a bag attached to the garage, which was directly underneath the living room. And whenever we used it, it was really, really loud upstairs. So it makes you wonder when anyone would have an opportunity to use the boxing bag without alerting everybody above you to the fact that there's somebody directly.
I guess get the hours of the building. Or maybe someone thought it would be haunted.
A haunted boxer?
No, just a haunted tower. And that's things that go bump in the night. Some more superstition there.
I don't know. That's pretty weak sauce.
I
You get
don't know.
any rational person and they'd be like, okay, it's not a ghost. Clearly there's something happening underneath me.
Right. How do you think they got in? The owl, the Talon, got in there though.
Well, clearly there's some sort of hidden entrance.
I bet it's behind the giant crest.
Well, we don't see the entire room here. We
Right.
see a lot of it, but we don't see the whole thing.
And then in this next panel, you see some axes and I don't know the technical terms for them, so I'm just going to call them axes and a knife.
Yeah, it looks like an axe, a glaive, a dagger.
Yeah. And then you go over to the right here and you see what looks like an older costume.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely different from the costume that we saw in the last issue.
Right.
I really like it. It looks really steampunky, which I like.
I do like it a lot too. Oh, he's even got a gauge on his arm.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's for, but it's there.
But yeah, the costume looks badass.
Yeah.
And then the technology obviously is pretty old here.
Right. You got some.
We see the glider in a little more detail, and it looks like it's just tied up with leather strings.
There's also an oil lamp up in the panel above there.
Yeah, we see an oil lamp, although right next to it we see a desk fan.
Wow,
So-
true. So. Huh.
So Batman is looking around. He sees this portrait on the wall of all these people wearing this really creepy white owl mask.
Right.
And the first time I saw this, I was like, what is the point of a portrait where you're covering your face like this? That's so ridiculous.
When I first saw it, I was thinking, is this some sort of cult or something?
Well, definitely.
Yeah, and it's titled, it's dated June 1891.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We're like, what the hell? This Court of Owls, it looks like it's legitimate.
Right.
And then Batman gets on the horn with Alfred and asks him about the Wayne Fund, which was established to help young architects.
Right.
And Batman asks Alfred to cross-reference that with all the buildings that have been built.
In the last 5 years. No, in the last, what do you say, 20 years? 50?
Well, over the last century and a half.
Oh,
so
century and a half.
150 years.
Okay.
And so we see Batman going from building to building, finding the 13th floor. We find a very similar setup to what we saw in the first in Wayne Tower. We see weapons strewn about. We see like a mannequin with a Talon
Out costume.
uniform kind of hanging on it, and we see a portrait with these creepy white owl masks.
Yeah. I do like the circular panels here that look like the eyeballs of the Talon's mask, or just an owl.
Yeah.
And it made me think: are the Talon watching him from afar? That's what it made me think.
I didn't get that impression from those. The first time I saw the little circular Talon eye looking at the buildings, I thought that was. I briefly thought, is that like a Donald Trump head or something? You see the balding hair just kind of like teased up to make it look like it's actually a full head of hair. But no, that's the Talon eye.
Right.
But at first I was like, oh, what's going on here? Oh yeah, okay, I get it. But I think in the last panel we see that the owl was watching. So maybe you're right. Maybe it does indicate that the owl is watching Batman conduct his investigation here. But you got to assume there's some sort of alarm system that's going off when Batman's sneaking into these owl caves.
I think it's a good old-fashioned bell alarm.
I think they're going to need something a little more high-tech than that.
Well, maybe for the one dated in 1891.
I think they probably upgraded since then. But in this page, in the bottom panel on the right, we see another Talon costume. This one looks really cool. I like the helmet.
Yeah.
It looks like more of like a gas mask or something with really cool ears on it.
And this one's dated, I think, 1929.
Yeah.
If you look, June 1929.
Yep.
So, and it's the second one that was dated for June.
Well, the other one here is dated June as well.
Yeah.
I think that's just when they do portraits.
Right. Okay.
And then the next scene we see the most recent one, which was built just 5 years ago, and we see Batman getting coming upon the most recent Talon's hideout.
Right.
But before that, we see some other buildings.
From 63.
Yep, 1963. And we see the current one here, which has an actual owl sitting on this perch. And we see it's all lit up. The lights are on. We see this, instead of just a mannequin with the owl suit, we see it's in this like
glass case,
this glass tube thing,
kind
of like
how Batman
does
his outfits.
Exactly. We see this big. It looks like a computer station in the center.
Right.
So this is definitely up to date. Owl cave.
As far as 5 years ago goes.
Yeah. Batman gets a really close look at the owl. He's like mean mugging it. Like, how dare you mock me? But Batman asks Alfred to open Alan Wayne's crypt. So I'm assuming the purpose of that is to determine the real cause of death for Alan Wayne.
Right.
We see Batman going through. We see him looking at the glider, the owl glider. We see all the weapons.
Right.
Batman's telling Alfred he was right about the owl nests. Alan Wayne is what he's talking about.
Right.
And Batman says they're in our homes. And we see in this panel
June 2006.
a picture from 2006 with the owl in the outfit that we saw in the second issue.
That would be 6 years ago as far as when this came out. 2011.
Well, you got to think they have a certain
Yeah.
period of time that they operate in. You would assume that at least 10 years at a time, right?
Right.
But we see this owl, or this Talon, is surrounded by people in modern business suits and
With those masks.
with the creepy owl masks.
Creepy, creepy.
But and then we see
an explosion.
we see Batman trip a tripwire.
Oh, wow. Great job,
Yeah,
Batsy.
the first thing I thought was, come on, rookie mistake.
Right.
And there's your onomatopoeia right there. Big
Kraboom. I don't know why it's Kraboom and not Kaboom, but...
We see the top of the building blowing apart. So there goes the Talon's owl nest.
Yep, and then next issue is Face the Court.
But yeah, we see the Talon looking upon the explosion, and we see this owl perching on the Talon's arm. You think that's the owl that was in the owl cave?
It looks like it's coming from the building to his arm, so yeah. I think so.
Yeah, that's the end of this issue.
Alright.
We don't know what happened to Batman. Did he survive this explosion? Well, clearly, but how did he survive?
Right. Well, I've been Jimmy.
Well, first off, what did you think?
What did I think of the issue? Oh,
give me your overall impression.
I thought it was a really good issue. I definitely did like it when Batman was going to investigate all the, I guess, owl nests.
Yeah, that was cool seeing him find those. Detective Batman, the best kind of Batman.
Right.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this issue?
Let me think. Probably a 10. 9.5 to 10. Yeah. Between there.
Perfect issue for you. Just like the second issue for you?
Yeah.
I would also give this a 10. We had good action, good Detective Batman. We had him
beating up mobsters.
Yeah, we had him uncovering the mystery of the Court of Owls. And we're left with this really big... Well, it's not a big cliffhanger, but it is a cliffhanger. And it leaves me wanting to see what happens
How
next.
did he get back here, though?
How did the Talon get back?
Yeah, he had an ambulance in the last issue and just kind of ran away.
Well, that was 2 days ago.
Okay.
So he probably just ditched the ambulance and went about his business.
Right. Alright, well...
Well, we'll get together next week and talk about
Issue 4.
Issue 4, which is titled Face the Court. And I'm Jake.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we've still got issues.